Good morning. So I thought I'd make this video about a YouTube comment that I had left a while ago. I'm not even sure if it was a month or a few months ago or a year ago, but it was basically conveying the idea that we cannot compare hives that we raise to those in the wild, right? The hives in the wild do not have the demands of the bees we have in captivity, I guess you'd say. The bees in the wild, they just need to produce enough honey to get to the next flow, right? They just need enough pollen to raise their young to get to the next year, right? That's all they need. They don't need more than that, right? We, on the other hand, we need those demands for the bees plus more, right? They have to be producing more than just that for us to gain something off them, and not just to gain some off, for us to be raising them. Otherwise, not enough people would be raising bees if they did not get anything from it besides just the bees' survival, right? Now, I understand that the bees' survival produces other things, right? So like in nature, right, the bees produce enough pollinating going on for there to be the plants and stuff to produce the next generation for the next year for they themselves and also for the other wildlife in the area. But that being said, we cannot live off of those areas unless we go and manipulate them, right? We cannot go gather enough of these, and whether or not we could eat some of these weeds and everything, we have to manipulate the ground, we have to farm it, and even if we didn't go there, we still have to build roads and everything to get to these places to harvest in nature, right? But we wouldn't have the yields that we need, and the same thing goes for bees too, right? The bees in nature, we can't let our bees just be like the bees in nature, just be able to survive just enough just to get to the next year. We would not be able to sustain ourselves that way. For instance, me personally as a beekeeper who wants to go full time into that, I would not be able to sustain myself if I was just kind of only breaking even, right? Because then I'd consume so much of my time, I couldn't do anything else to bring in a profit for to raise my family and everything, right? So there's got to be a balance, right? So there is a mutual relationship between us and the bees as far as I spend my time to take care of them, to raise them, to get them to the next year, and they in return provide me with either being able to do pollination services or bringing in honey to sell that. If they don't provide those things for me, I have no reason to raise them and spend 40 hours a week on them, right? I don't have enough time just to be throwing my time away for no reason like that. Now, that being said, like I said, you look at these bees in nature and what they need, right? It's a very small amount. But now when we take them out of nature, right, you could say how healthy or how better genetics are in those bees, and we've bred those genetics out. Now, I would say this, especially here in America. First of all these bees here were brought in, so I'm sure there was already a lot of manipulation being done with those bees. So I think that argument doesn't stand very well. Now, I do think there is a thing of the genetics kind of going back when you just leave them alone and in the wild. But besides that, they still have been manipulated, right? And their genes that they have are still going to be affected by what we brought in, right? So getting back to that, right, we got to manipulate our hives to be able to have large amounts of bees in the spring, right, for the early pollination, right? We have to manipulate our hives to have a nice, a decent amount of bees for those early honey flows, right? If we do not do this manipulation, we will not be able to provide these services or these products without doing so. So when people try to get on the bandwagon and say, oh, like we do things wrong, we need to be more like nature, they have some points, but they fail to realize that those in nature do not have the same requirements as those we have in captivity, right? There's a difference in them. One thing that pops to mind is the Mustang, right? So the Mustang was brought here to the United States by the Spanish, right? And the Mustangs that we came later on to were not the horses the Spanish brought. The Spanish brought some really nice, fine, excellent horses. But after a few hundred years, those horses got kind of scabby looking, just kind of nasty looking horses. But they were a tough horse. They were they were very smart. They survived. In a sense, they went back somewhat to their original wild horse, right? They didn't grow as big. Uh, they were better drought resistant. Their hooves were better. There was so much about them that they went back kind of like towards more of a wild animal. Not 100%, but they fit a small group, right? I mean, like you could say the Comanche used them and all that, and they did great things with them, but it wasn't what we needed, right? They weren't good for pulling a plow. They weren't good for pulling a wagon. They weren't good for being able to travel short distances in a short amount of time and stuff like that, right? They had some endurance. They had some, how would you say it, some grit. They were able to survive in such harsh conditions, which was a very good thing, right? But it doesn't always fit with what we need. And we've taken those horses and we've manipulated and we brought some of them back. Some of the people used to turn out better stallions with them to breed that stock up. But in the condition they were pretty much useless for a lot of the ranchers and farmers. So like when we look at that, that's the same thing with bees, right? The bees in nature are worthless for the most part. I'm not going to say it's not a 100% statement, but they're worthless for commercial guys. They're worthless for anybody who wants to use these bees to produce a product or provide a service. And when we compare the two and say one is better than the other, it's I don't know, I guess you say it's stupid because they're fulfilling two different needs. One's just fulfilling the basic needs of nature and it's doing a great job. The other one is fulfilling the needs of people and eating and surviving and everything. And I think they're doing a good job too. Now, they might not be doing a perfect job, but they're doing a great job at it. And to try to say one is better than the other just doesn't make any sense. It's actually quite ridiculous. And I think people fail to kind of think some of these things through. Now, there's a lot of things I don't like as far as all the chemicals used, all this stuff that is supposed to be better and helpful and everything. I don't think it is. Sometimes we don't have anything better, especially if our livelihood depends on it. We kind of feel maybe strong-armed sometimes to do some of these things. So I'm not against those who seek alternative methods of, let's say, treating bees for the varroa mites or ways to plant crops and control insects that are eating on their crops. I think those things are good and I think they're necessary. But we're not going to be sustainable as is with just some of those methods, right? That's not to say that we can't overcome them, but a lot of people really don't have solutions for the high production needs that we have or the high production demands that we have. And like I said, I think people fail to see that. And once they realize that, I hope they can understand how things really are. And there is a difference between the two. And one is not necessarily better than the other. They both serve a purpose. Like there's nothing, right? See Ian Stepler on him raising bees and stuff and doing his own queens and all that, right? There's a lot of interesting things, and I don't think some of the things are always right, but I don't think it's wrong. How would you say it? Like, for instance, if he was doing that thing where they came in and seeing how well how hygienic some of the bees were, and then, hey, you know what? Let's breed off of those hygienic bees, and that's good. You bring that trait in, and I don't have anything against that, but if you got other hives that aren't as hygienic, but they're doing just as well, what does it matter, right? So they might have something going for them. We're totally ignoring that and we're going this way, right? But at the same time, I think it's fine because somebody else might say, hey, you know what? It doesn't matter. I don't care how hygienic they are. My mite counts are always low on these hives. They're always healthy. They're always strong. I'm going to breed off of them anyway. And so we keep those genetics. So that diversity is very important, right? The diversity in the genetics. If you look into, let's say, like why purebred dogs have all these health problems versus these mutts that are mixed with every dog in the world, how healthy they are, right? As far as they don't have all these same type of health problems. I mean, that's not to say they don't have any, but a lot of the common ones don't exist in these mutts. And what it is, it's that diversity, and it's how we've bred these breeds up, right? And some people have some very good breeding techniques with their bees to make sure they have more of that diversity. But I think just like with anything, when you breed for specific traits and that's all you head for and aim for, yeah, you'll always be lacking in something. And there is other things that take place genetically, even when you do that, that are a byproduct of what you're trying to achieve. An example of that is if you look at the study they did on foxes, I don't know when it was. I want to say it was in the 70s. I'm not sure. You'd have to go verify this. But I believe it was in Russia. But they did a study of foxes. They were trying to breed domesticate foxes, basically. And in doing so, they changed the way the fox looked. It affected its coloring patterns and everything. And they were not breeding for coloring patterns. They were breeding for domesticating them. What's the word I'm looking for? But basically making them less timid and less wild, right? That's what they were trying to do there. And there were side effects of that they got, right? And you look at on some of the dogs that have been bred, right? We were looking for certain characteristics, ears that stick up, or a certain color pattern on their body. We start breeding for those things. And it's funny, rather than traits that actually are beneficial. But we start breeding for those type of things, and then those have side effects also. So it is one thing when we start breeding bees, let's say for a large honey crop or a large amount of bees in the spring, we will have issues, we will have side effects from that might not always be beneficial. They might be detrimental to our bees, right? Maybe more susceptible to mites and everything. And the answer might not be, oh, hey, more chemical to put on them to kill the mites. It might be, hey, you know what? Let's crossbreed with something else and bring something else into the bees that they need. And I'm not opposed to any of that, but the idea that all these people are doing things wrong is, I don't know, maybe kind of partly narcissistic, or maybe it's just a lack of knowledge on their part of understanding the demands of the world and how the wild bees are not capable on their own to supply us those demands. And if it wasn't for these beekeepers who are willing to raise large amounts, travel them across the country, I think they would be surprised on the amount they would be paying for the goods they have. So maybe it'd be a good thing for another set of people, but it'd be bad for a lot of others. But anyways, just some thoughts I've been thinking. Maybe this is too long of a video, but I don't know. You can share your thoughts on what you think as far as, are commercial guys detrimental to the beekeeping industry? Are hobbyists the savior of the beekeeping industry? Or do they complement each other and they are both needed to overcome some of the issues that we have as beekeepers? Anyways, if you have any thoughts or anything, leave it in the comments below. If you have not subscribed to this channel, please subscribe and give it a thumbs up if you liked it. I will see you guys in the next video. I've been very busy with a lot of projects, and I would like to get more time to upload videos. This one's going to be a raw and unedited video because I don't want to spend the time to go through it. So you guys got to deal with my mistakes, anything that I misspoke, and just try to figure out what I said. You can leave it in the comments below if hey, you said that wrong. That'll work. Maybe I can correct it then. But anyways, we'll see you guys later. You guys have a good day, and I will see you guys in the next video. See you all later.